Though I may no longer cover the game with explosivity or play it as much as I used to for various reasons, it is still part of the variety direction of the channel to showcase, guide, and even review certain games, including these ones, without loyalty, though there might have been some favorites here and there. With all that said, welcome to my 2020 Warframe review. There are various things to cover in this video, but there are also certain things that will never get a highlight, because if I do, we will spend several hours doing so, and I could also end up spoiling some of the wow moments of the game. Warframe is an MMORPG where you play as ninjas, warriors, donning the art of the samurai, Greek gods, African deities, and different figures. The combat system revolves around melee, guns, and abilities. These styles and designs are influenced by several cultures and heritage. It can even be noticed in the world building of the game. The combat and the story of Warframe is quite incredible, and you will see this as you experience several tile sets in some of the open worlds of Warframe. It is a cluster of many things that can be seen as a terrible thing or even a beautiful mess. In terms of gameplay loop, Warframe is a looter, or in better terms, a farming simulator, which is the joke within the community. There are hundreds of combination of weapons, warframes, and modifications to utilize. You want to be a ninja, a samurai, a Greek god smashing a whole bunch of stuff? Yes, you can do that. You want to be a goddess seducing enemies with her power of hallucinations or music or hotness? Well, yes you can. You want to play as a space pirate engineer with the most useful or useless gadgets in existence? Well, yes, you can do those things in Warframe. The game utilizes a modern system to empower your weapons and characters by boosting existing perks or giving you extra intrinsics to existing abilities. And within this modern system, you get to understand the physical, the elemental. As you progress through the game, you will begin to understand the relic system, the primes, the alternate weapons, or what some will consider a side grade or downgrade. Don't judge me on that one. Now, there isn't a strong new player experience, which means you will struggle to get acclimated if you're just hopping into Warframe. But there are also several guides out there all over the internet, even here on YouTube, that will guide you through the early stages and mid stages of the game. The current game modes in Warframe consist of variations of capture, defend, escort, or survival game types. You even have things such as wildlife preservation, and of course a lot of these things can also be done with the utility of your companions and things in the game. And though several of the characters in the game try their best to talk to you and walk you through some of this process, I will still encourage you to look for guides online, including YouTube. Now, from gameplay into the story, which seems to be Warframe's greatest suit. Story update drops at least once a year. There were times when it was twice a year. Some of them are after several delays or installments, but they do come eventually. In the early game, you will experience a lot of story, and there is a focus on how what you do in the game matters to the world or the connection to the warframes you use. In later game, the system begins to do away with some of those things that you experienced earlier on. The game begins to focus on major cinematic quests instead of the small ones. If there's anything to keep you interested in the game after a long time of playing, most players will reference the lore of the game being a very interesting part. Some will talk about the fashion, and some will also talk about the trade chat, which is another thing about getting rich within the game. If I decide to say too much about the lore of this game, I risk spoiling the excitement that you probably will enjoy if you ever decide to jump into this game, assuming that you're a new player, of course. Some of the lore in this game is tied into the gameplay and the weapons and the ships. It's just so hard to talk about some of this without diving into the lore. Just know that there is a cruise ship. Imagine Evangelion. There is a clan system and dojos, and there is also a PvP system which is almost non-existent, but it is there in case you want to try it out. So let's talk about the drawbacks of this game, because the game is great, but every game always has its own drawbacks. First is going to be the economy of the game. The game economy is divided into three parts: farming, trading, and store purchase, which is all fueled by the use of in-game platinum or credits. Warframe received the nickname Farming Simulator due to its sometimes excessive RNG. In the earlier stages of the update or the new system, RNG is very high, which could force newer players into spending platinum or real money instead of farming for these items. There have been updates that include layers upon layers of RNG, and the longer you stay in the game, it will slowly transition from requiring you to spend money to requiring blood, sweat, and time. And the greatest benefit of this is for the later players, not the newer players. The longer you stay in Warframe though, you begin to understand ways to get items instead of spending real money. RNG will frustrate you in this game. Luckily, there is a trading system. If the RNG god decides it's not your time today, well, you can just buy whatever you want or whatever you need from the trade chat. This includes weapons, mods, resources, weapon parts, and prime Warframe parts. While this is great news, the developers have often succeeded but mostly failed in regulating the trade system and the governing body of players who turned it into their own empire. There are those who prey on newer players, and there are those who just prey on the entire Warframe community, and you might also just call the trade chat the Riven market as well. In its current state, the trade chat is less diverse as most of the interactions are about buying and selling Rivens. There are players who feel that the developers should create a separate trade chat tab for Rivens, which will in turn open more spots for other regular trade interactions. The in-game store is strategically designed to help those who dig through it while preying on those who don't. So instead of buying a blueprint, you may end up buying the whole item instead. Now, once again, these are issues that will most likely affect newer players, not the veterans or players who have been playing for at least a long time. If we focus on veterans, it will be about endgame and sustainability. While the studio has promised to deliver for its veterans, there is still no major endgame/endgame rewards compared to games like Destiny 2 or Borderlands 3. So after 500 hours of gameplay, you will start to find a new reason to keep on playing. And this is where the lore, the fashion, or the wealth comes in. If you are still new in Warframe, you will have enough content to last you a year or two. But if you're a veteran, you could wait an eternity to get something tangible or something that will interest you. Now, from a business standpoint, new and casual players are the ones who spend the most when it comes to these games. So you could see the potential disconnect between the developers and the veteran players. Overall, Warframe is a good game in 2020 if you are coming from other games, but if you are someone who has been playing the game for a while and you just took maybe a 6-month break, then I will say there is nothing new until the next cinematic quest, but it's still a good game. In 2020, I decided that I will rate games based on bad, not bad, okay, good, and great. With all things considered and over 3,000 hours of gameplay in Warframe, I will give the game a score of good. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.